Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Sunday, July 9th, 2023. It's the final day of games in the MLB before the All-Star break, so wrapping up the first half of the season right here. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my $19 rundown best bet, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. Alrighty, let's get into it. Here are the games for Sunday in Major League Baseball. First up, it's the Texas Rangers taking on the Washington Nationals. This one at 12:05 Eastern start time. Dane Dunning and Patrick Corbin are your projected starters. To me, this is a pitching mismatch. I mean, Dane Dunning has really stepped it up, him and Nathan Eovaldi, since the Jacob deGrom injury. Dunning's 8-1 this year with a 2.61 ERA. His last start, 6 innings of 1-run baseball. The Rangers are 4-0 in his last 4 starts. Patrick Corbin on the other side, 5-10 this year with an ERA above 5 now on the season. He pitched well against the Mariners back on June 28th, but followed it up with a bad performance against the Reds in his last outing on the 4th of July. 5 innings, 6 earned runs, 2 home runs, and 10 base hits in an 8-4 Nationals loss. The Nationals are 1-4 on the money line in his last 5 games and 1-4 on the run line as well. Can't trust him in this one. Give me the Texas Rangers on the run line on the road. Next up, we see the Chicago Cubs taking on the New York Yankees. Kyle Hendricks and Domingo Germán are your starters. You can take the under in this game with the Yankees' struggling offense, but I also think there's some value here with the Chicago Cubs getting that plus money price on the money line on the road. Kyle Hendricks has been sharp this year with a 2.64 ERA, but even better numbers on the road away from Wrigley Field with a 1.71 ERA in 26 1/3 innings. He does a really good job at limiting sharp contact. He's only given up 2 home runs so far in around 48 innings of work this season, only 1 home run on the road. I think he pitches well here against the Yankees team, like I mentioned, that is struggling offensively. Domingo Germán hasn't been great at Yankee Stadium. We know he had a perfect game, but that was on the road against one of the worst teams in baseball in the Oakland A's. He fouled that game up by giving up 9 base hits in only 4 1/3 innings against the Baltimore Orioles. Now, the bats backed him up in that game, but I don't like the Yankees' chances in this one against Hendricks. Give me the Chicago Cubs on the money line on the road. Next up, we see the Oakland A's taking on the Boston Red Sox. No official starter for Boston right now. We should see J.P. Sears going for the A's. When I looked at the projected starters for this series, the upcoming series, I thought that this was the game that the Oakland A's had the best chance at winning. Probably a bullpen game or a spot starter for Boston here. The Red Sox bullpen in the last 30 days has just been so-so. They're actually the 11th highest Sierra in the league in the last 30 daes, so their bullpen's a little bit below league average. J.P. Sears is probably the best option the A's have in that rotation right now. He's got a 4.09 ERA overall this year. He's been able to give the A's about 95 strong innings of work this season. And you saw his last start against the Tigers, 7 1/3 innings against a pretty tough Tigers lineup against lefties. Shut out baseball in that game. That was a 1-0 A's win. And you look at the Red Sox in the last 30 days, this team has not been great against left-handed pitching. You look at the numbers, they're 16th in team OPS, and they're even worse. They're ranked 23rd in isolated power against lefties. So I think Sears pitches pretty well, keeps his team in this game. Give me the 1.5 runs here with the Oakland A's, a sprinkle on the money line as well. Next up, it's the Atlanta Braves and the Tampa Bay Rays. Bryce Elder and Zach Eflin are your starters. It's not easy going against the Atlanta Braves when they're facing a right-handed starter these days, but I do think Eflin is one of the better righties in the American League this season. He's got a really good numbers at Tropicana Field. Coming off a good start against the Phillies, 7 innings, a 2-run ball with 9 strikeouts. He's pretty efficient on the mound. That's the big thing. Even though he misses bats and earns strikeouts, he also doesn't really walk a lot of guys, so he can usually go pretty deep into ball games. We've seen 7+ innings in his last 2. We've seen 6+ innings in his last 4. So that's important. The Rays bullpen has not been my favorite this year. If Eflin could give the Rays 6-7 good innings, I think I like their chances a lot more. And Bryce Elder on the other side, he's been great this year in the role that he's had. A 7-1 record, a 2.45 ERA. I didn't expect it going into the year, but I also do have my regression concerns in his game. I don't love the fact that he doesn't really strike out a lot of guys. His control's been off a little bit as of late. So I do think Tampa Bay is also a really tough lineup to face as a right-handed pitcher. I think Eflin's the better starting pitcher in this one. So you could take Tampa Bay in the first 5, but I like the Rays in the full game as well. So give me the Tampa Bay Rays on the money line. Next up, it's the Kansas City Royals taking on the Cleveland Guardians. Shane Bieber going for Cleveland. No official starter for KC. Now, I've gone against Shane Bieber a few times this year, whether I've taken the over in his games or the opposition in general. But, I do think, my big concern with Bieber has been the fact that his strikeout numbers have not been there this year. 89 Ks and 110 2/3 innings. But I like this matchup for him, against Kansas City, a team he's already pitched well against this year. He pitched against them on June 29th, 6 innings of 8 strikeouts, shutout baseball. So, Kansas City is one of the weaker lineups in the American League. We also know Shane Bieber pitches a lot better at Progressive Field than he does on the road. At home this season in 47 2/3 innings, he's got 42 strikeouts and a 3.02 ERA, a 225 opponent's batting average, and only 3 home runs allowed. On the road, his ERA goes up to 4.14. His strikeout numbers are 47 in 63 innings, so a lower K rate, a higher home run rate, 10 home runs allowed in those innings, and a much higher opponent's batting average at 263. I like Bieber when he's pitching in Progressive Field against a weak lineup and a weak pitching staff that may be going with a bullpen game here. Give me the Cleveland Guardians on the run line at Progressive Field. Next up, it's the NL East battle between the Philadelphia Phillies and the Miami Marlins. Aaron Nola and Jesus Luzardo. Pretty good pitching matchup on our hands in this one. And because of that, I like the under in the first 5 innings between these two teams. Aaron Nola is coming off one of his best starts, really, of his career in his last game against the Tampa Bay Rays on the road against a very good lineup. 7 1/3 innings, 1 run, 12 strikeouts in that game. He had 7 shutout innings. They brought him back out for the 8th inning when he already had 100-plus pitches. I was pretty surprised he gave the home run after getting the first out of the inning, and that was his outing. But still, really strong performance from Aaron Nola, and the Phillies grabbed the W in that game. The Phillies are 3-1 on the money line in his last 4 starts. But on the other side, Jesus Luzardo has pitched so well at Lone Depot Park this season. He has a tough matchup against these Phillies, but Luzardo, 3.32 ERA overall, a 2.39 ERA when he's pitching at Lone Depot, 16 1/3 innings at home, 72 strikeouts, very low opponent's batting average, a low home run rate as well. I like the under in the first 5, should be a pitcher's duel in Miami. Next up, we go to Comerica Park as the Blue Jays take on the Tigers. We're going to see Chris Bassett and Tarek Skubal on the mound in this one. Now, Chris Bassett's not been great on the road this year. He's at a 4.09 ERA overall and a 5.74 ERA away from Rogers Center. Don't love that going into this spot. I do think we're getting a really good price with Detroit, who's got Skubal on the mound. He pitched really well in his season debut with the Tigers. 4 innings of virtually perfect baseball. No hits, no walks, no runs, and 6 strikeouts against the Oakland A's. Now, that's the Oakland A's, one of the weaker lineups in the league, but when you look in the last 30 days for the Blue Jays, they haven't been great against lefties. They're 24th in baseball in isolated power. They're right around league average in team OPS. Their strikeout rate's pretty low, but I still think Skubal pitches well in this game, goes deeper than that 4 innings he went in his first start. I think there's really good value with the Tigers, so give me the home team, the home underdogs, and the Detroit Tigers on the money line. Next up, it's the Baltimore Orioles taking on the Minnesota Twins. Kyle Gibson and Joe Ryan are your starters. I just can't get there with Kyle Gibson and the Orioles in this game. He's just not in good enough form for me to take a chance with him. Kyle Gibson was pitching pretty well for the O's overall in 2023, but his last few starts, he gave up 4 earned to the Yankees, who have been struggling offensively, in an 8-4 Orioles loss. Gave up 6 earned to the Reds in an 11-7 Orioles loss. 5 earned to the Seattle Mariners in a 13-1 blowout loss. So the O's have lost each of his last 4 games. He's walked a lot of guys, given up a lot of base hits and sharp contact. You got Joe Ryan on the other side, who's pitched really well at Target Field this season. Not so much on the road, but at home, a 2.73 ERA. I got to take the Minnesota Twins here on the money line at Target Field. Next up, we go to the NL Central as the Reds take on the Brewers. We're going to see Wade Miley going for Milwaukee. No official starter for the Reds right now. Wade Miley's not in the best form going into this start. 9 innings of work his last 2 games combined. 12 hits and 6 earned runs, a couple home runs, and 5 walks to go with it. You got the Cincinnati Reds, who have really done well against left-handed starting pitchers this year, and against lefties in general in the last 30 days. The Reds are 8th in baseball in OPS and 2nd to only the Atlanta Braves in isolated power. I like the Reds' offensive matchup here against Miley. We'll have to see who the official starter is for Cincinnati, but I think the Reds grab the W in the end. So give me Cincinnati on the money line on the road. Next up, we see the Seattle Mariners taking on the Houston Astros. Logan Gilbert and Brandon Bielak are your starters. Logan Gilbert's last start, a complete game shutout with 7 strikeouts against the San Francisco Giants. Didn't walk a single batter in that game either. And, last year, Gilbert faced the Astros in the regular season quite often, had about 25 innings against them, and had a solid 2.52 ERA. Faced them in the playoffs as well, and decent outing in that game, 5 1/3 innings, 3 runs. But I think Gilbert pitches well in this one. I also think he's the better option on the mound. Bielak pitched well in his last game, 7 innings, a shutout ball against the Rockies. That's the Colorado Rockies. A team that we know offensively just has not been great on the road this year. But before that, Bielak gave up in 9 2/3 innings against the Guardians and Reds, a combined 9 earned runs and 3 home runs, 5 walks, and a 10-3 and 5-0 Astros loss. So I don't love Bielak in this spot, but the Mariners' offense starting to heat up quite a bit. I like Seattle in this game on the road on the money line. Next up is the St. Louis Cardinals taking on the Chicago White Sox with Steven Matz and Lucas Giolito on the mound. Steven Matz was moved to the bullpen after struggling in the starting pitching role at one point for St. Louis, and overall this year he's 0-7 with a 5.02 ERA. He's got a 7.14 ERA on the road as well. So even though the White Sox have not been the best against lefties in the last 30 days, I still like their matchup here against Steven Matz. And Lucas Giolito, is coming off another quality start at Guaranteed Rate Field. He has pitched very well at home this year with a 2.43 ERA. I got to take the White Sox in this game on the money line at home. Next up, we go to San Francisco as the Giants take on the Rockies. Kyle Freeland and Logan Webb are your projected starters. Kyle Freeland, we've mentioned it a few times, he's one of those rare Colorado Rockies starters that actually has an ERA steeper on the road than at Coors Field, believe it or not. And on the road this season, Freeland has not been very good at all. 5.89 ERA, a 1-7 record, and 44 and a third innings of work. He's only got 17 strikeouts in those 44 innings, which is the big concern for me. 13 walks to go with it and 9 home runs, a 2.99 opponent's batting average. San Francisco was not a team at the beginning of the year that was hitting lefties very well, had a very high strikeout rate and low OPS and isolated power numbers, but in the last 30 days, even though the strikeout rate's still a little bit steep, the walk rate's gone up and the OPS is in the top 15 in the league. So I do think San Francisco will be able to get to Kyle Freeland. I like backing Logan Webb when he's pitching at Oracle Park. He's been much better at home this season than he has been on the road. At home, 2.36 ERA compared to a 4.24 ERA on the road. I think Webb's the much better starter with the better bullpen, the better lineup, and the better matchup. So give me San Francisco here in the run line. Next up, we see the Pittsburgh Pirates taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks. We see Zach Davies going for Arizona. No official starter for the Buccos right now. Give me the over in this game. Zach Davies has not pitched well at Chase Field this year. He had one good start at Chase Field against the Rays not too long ago, but after that against the New York Mets, he struggled again, gave up 2 home runs and 4 earned runs. And home overall this year is 7.16 ERA in 32 2/3 innings. I know the Pirates aren't the best lineup in baseball, but I still think they get to Zach Davies in this one. And the Pirates, if they have to go with a bullpen game here, this Pirates bullpen has not been very good in the last 30 days. Going into Friday's games, they have an ERA and a Sierra in the top 10 highest in baseball in the last month. So I think we see a high-scoring affair. Give me the over here in Pittsburgh, Arizona. Next up, we see the New York Mets taking on the San Diego Padres with Max Scherzer and Joe Musgrove on the mound. And this one, Max Scherzer's given up a lot of home runs as of late. That is a concern. I mean, the Padres, good power numbers in the last 30 days against righties. Scherzer's given up at least 1 home run in each of his last 6 starts and 3 home runs in his last game against Arizona. But I still think we're going to see a low-scoring game overall. I probably lean towards the Padres on the money line and the under. Joe Musgrove, he has pitched very well at Petco Park this season. Overall, 41 innings of work, a 4-1 record with a 2.63 ERA, 43 strikeouts, and a low 222 opponent's batting average. But, Max Scherzer also faced these Padres earlier in the season, had a really good outing against them, 5 innings of 1-hit shutout baseball, 6 strikeouts in the end, and a 5-0 Mets win. So I think we're going to see a low-scoring game. Like I said, I lean towards San Diego with those home run concerns with Max Scherzer, but give me the under in Mets-Padres. And that's it. That's the first half of the MLB season. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at Pickdawgz.com. I'll see you on Thursday night for Friday's games. Enjoy the All-Star break, everybody. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.